Today we're going to hit pause on the Stingray for a bit because we got to troubleshoot something else. Here we're going to look at this Jeep. This is a relative's Jeep that has a 5.9 Magnum Swap in it and a larger transmission. It went from the 2.5 liter to a 5.9, and it was a 5-speed and now it's an automatic. Here's how it looks. Pretty awesome little swapperoo, but it's not running correctly. The engine seems to be running pretty fantastic, but something's not jiving. So we're gonna look at it. However, before I do that, I gotta wash it because the owners and users of the vehicle have neglected it. You know who you are. And so I'm gonna spray it off real quick and then climb under it and see what I can see. Excited to edit that to see how bald I am. Alright, so here's the symptoms of this. The engine seems to run really well, but when you put it in gear, at least forward, two things happen. One, it has a really bad vibration. I don't know really how to describe it. It feels like four-wheel drive is engaging, but not really. The second thing is it feels, the engine feels strong, but it feels like it's underpowered, like it's starting in second or third gear. So I don't really have a plan yet. I think first I'm gonna check the transmission fluid, and then after I realize that is where it needs to be, I gotta play with the four-wheel drive linkage. So I'm gonna start there. So it's actually very low. So I'll start there. So it was 3/4 of a quart low. See how it's revs up to, I didn't fix it. It's got to rev up to like 1800 before it takes off. And that doesn't feel normal to me. It has a hard time starting from zero and going up like small slopes. So this is a very small slope. So I'm not sure, there's a check engine light on, but it should start going now. Like, that's the way it feels it should be going. After it gets going, it feels okay. It doesn't feel like it's doing the grinding thing anymore. So it should be able to crawl right there, and it just can't crawl. So, what do I do next? What to do next? This feels like it's a monster truck when I start going. Maybe check the fluid again. So I think this thing is extremely awesome. This is the 5.9 Magnum. It's the same engine I have under these towels to be put together, and I have all the parts on the rebuild to put it together. It feels like a very healthy engine, and I don't know if that's a torque converter problem or what, because it just doesn't have has no get up and go. The power and the sound of the engine absolutely do not match the lack of torque. So this is very hot engine oil. Looks like there's some engine oil leaking from the valve cover. I need to adjust that linkage right in there for the four-wheel drive. So I'll try to figure that out next. So real quickly, I'm gonna take the bash plate off, and I'm supporting up the drive shaft and the yoke out of the back, because for you youngins that don't know this, so you don't end up dying like I did, this pan is holding up the transmission. So you need to remove these bolts, and there's some, I believe there's some other bolts up in there. And if you don't support the engine and transmission from somewhere, either from up front or in the back, the whole entire engine and transmission will lower and compress your lungs and squeeze you to death. I learned that the hard way. It's a longer story than that. So here's what I'm trying to figure out right now. We have this is the transfer case right here. This is the four-wheel drive shift mechanism. And it looks like it's in backwards is what my guess is, because that is two-wheel drive and that's four-wheel drive. So it's rotating this this mechanism the wrong way. So I think I'm gonna flip that and try it again. So I have quickly formed an opinion. This shift rod comes down and needs to go right here. So I'm gonna cut this out to see if that frees it up a little bit. And if anyone's watching that might own this, I can weld it back together, but I have a hunch. Final result, now I'll see if that goes on. What I did was shave this piece out. It wouldn't allow this rod to pass through. And so now it's in second, the gear shifter's lined up in second. The problem is, even in stock form, if this is shifting into 4 low, it's tapping against the case. And so there's just not a lot of room to go there. 4 high over. I think that's neutral. That's gotta be neutral. That's neutral. and now it won't go into 4 low because I think it's tapping on the wall. And there's the problem. And I think that might be, you know, I don't know if that's 4 low or not. It feels like it might be 4 low, but that shouldn't be tapping on the case. Now, I know I could fix that by grinding that off. Maybe I just need to grind that off. But in stock form, it wasn't doing that. But at least we got too low. I have to take you along to show you what I found out. There was a dead bird in the basket. So I just started this and went down the road. Check engine light came on, and here's what I noticed. Just to show that sometimes I actually do know what I'm talking about. So when you back it out of the driveway, I thought this was a cool heat problem at first, but when I backed out of the driveway, good power, and then I put it into drive, and this thing has fantastic power. And then after it gets going, it like at this stop sign, I'll show you. When I take off again, there's no power. And I mentioned I thought it was a heat problem, but I don't think it's hot yet. My smell's not back from COVID, but I can smell something like transmission oil, I think, or brake. So it doesn't have good power right out the get-go. What I have just learned is that I was right, because it is not shifting down into first. So when I manually shift it down into first, it has pretty good pickup and good torque. The engine seems to be running pretty great. So now I've come to a stop again, and when I hit it, it has the pickup it should. So that tells me the shift down mechanism might not even be hooked up, or it's not functioning. And I don't know on this engine, I'll have to learn. I don't know if that's computer controlled or not. This shifter is pretty awesome. I can't see it at night, but it's a bump shift. So just bump shift yourself. I shifted it into neutral, but it won't go down into first. There's like 3 problems, and I solved a half of one and a half the other. So out of 3 problems, I solved 1 problem. Oh, there we go. There's 2 high, 4 high. It's in 4 high. Over, up. So that should be neutral. It felt like it clicked in. I'm still in gear. And that feels like it's the end of the road. So yeah, so I gotta keep looking into that, because why would that be so? If you can't go into 4 low, why have it? Well, what is that? Because that's messed up. have a Jeep. You can't Jeep if it's not in 4 low. This is a 231D. This is clocked at 2-wheel drive, and it rotates backwards. So that was on upside down. And I'm still trying to wrap my brain around how to fix this so it all fits in here. I haven't been able to do that yet. I believe I'm going to need to adjust that giant metal bracket and look at some stuff. So I'm gonna drop the more learning. So this is a 231D. My guess was that this transfer case, the 231D, the D is for Dodge. 231 blank is for Jeep. And this is out of the Dodge that the engine and transmission are pulled out of. So I called said owner and semi-confirmed that. What that means is the shift pattern is opposite of the Jeep, which means the linkage for the Jeep is wanting to shift it this way, and the linkage for the Dodge needs to go this way. But the problem is the end of the transfer case won't let it go into neutral or 4-wheel drive low. So what I probably need to do is change the clocking so it's off just a little bit. Instead of like that, I need it to be like that. So I have some drawing to do. Here's the plan. I want to clock it so it goes into 4-wheel drive. What I'm planning on doing is keeping this position by cutting this piece and then clocking it on like that. That is the plan for now. So I came to some conclusions. I was able to cut that little lever and turn it, clock it different, and weld it back in. The problem is the TJ linkage is a bit too high, and it comes, that rod that connects the lever to the transfer case, the rod, it comes in at the wrong angle. It needs to be down here and actuate it from here. It's trying to come from up here and it's just getting bound up. So like I was saying yesterday, there's 3 problems going on. I was able to solve a half of one problem, but at least it's a little closer to knowing what's happening. Conclusion is, I think Durango transfer case shift cable is the way to solve that. I also think that the downshift for the transmission is binding the engine up a little bit. Pulling in to my driveway for the first time, I've driven it maybe 50 miles. Pulling it into my driveway just now, when I hit the brakes, it died. I'm assuming that's coming from the overload of codes, and so the oxygen sensors aren't reading correctly, or they're bad. So they're probably causing a little bit of a misfire. Transmission just needs assistant shifting, which is kind of unique, I guess. I don't know. And the transfer case, I guess we kind of solved that problem, but all of it drives the same. You just have to be on it and downshift. So came to a conclusion. Didn't really resolve anything, but now we know what next steps to take. Next time, back to the Corvette.